Goes.
Yeah, I heard it.
Yep. Okay, I see some people starting on the horns, so I never identified it to everybody, but if you take this block of wood that I gave you and divide it down the middle, like yay, and then draw on the face the horns, and you've got a pattern there. You can draw on the horn, or you can make big horns however you want. So you draw on your horn. So then when you cut it out and you remove the wood on the outside, like yay, then all you got to do is cut it in two, and you've got two horns that are the same. Okay? The other trick I found was when I went to drill the hole for the horn in the side of the head, the bit I decided on, of course, was determined by the size of the horn that I used. I found it was difficult to make a perfect fit. So then I looked at where I took the drill out of the container, the hole that was there. I put the horn in it, and I just turned it around, and it fits perfectly. Okay? So it's a very simple process to make the horn fit in there. And it's a nice snug fit too, because the hole that's in the container that your drill fits into is a little bit bigger than the drill itself. So therefore it makes a nice snug fit. It's a double whammy. It works really good.
You need to glue it in afterwards?
Oh, you can. I'll glue it in later, but the way it stands right now, I'm still using it for demo. But yeah.
But the finished product will be glued in.
Yeah, yeah. You have to shape it the way you want it. Like the horns can be whatever shape. Like they could be turned down, like yay, or up. You know. So a horn can be whatever shape you want to make it, as far as positioning it on the side of the head. And the other thing was, I mentioned earlier that they have an oval on the pattern to put the neck in, and I made it around, and that's done on purpose so that all I had to do was round the bottom of his neck, and then I could put that in. And if you notice, I even drilled it on a bit of a slant so that the head looks a little bit crooked, but then I can turn the head so you can have a little bit of attitude if you want, or leave it whatever size or whatever shape you want. But it's a good trick to know that if you think ahead a little bit, you can adjust it and make it work for you.
Would you put that just profile, Brian? Yeah, just turn a bit more. Okay.
Sure. Yeah, so the horns can be whatever shape, and then turn the head, and if you take a look at it, I mean, straight on there it is really quite crooked, but you could also have them fairly straight if you want. Or turn the other way, I mean, just because he's, yeah, it doesn't matter. Give him a bit of attitude, a little bit of sway. Okay, let's talk about we've been working on the front shoulder. So that's to get this nicely rounded on the side here so that it rounds all the way up, get rid of all the material so we get a nice round shape in here. And that's this shape. That's this shape right here. Get that nice round shape there. Then we can start working on the back of his leg here. If the muscle is bigger at the back than it is down at the bottom, so towards the top we're going to round it as well and remove that bit of wood like that. So it ends up looking like that. You've got your nice round shape here and somewhat of a definition on the back side as well. So now we got to work on the hump And the backbone sits up high. This backbone sits up high here, but we got to get rid of this material coming down the side. In order to emphasize that backbone here, we got to remove the wood on the top half of the shoulder. So it looks like that. So we've got the top half of it eliminated. Can you see how much lower it is than the other side? So that we get this lowered down. So now we're going to be able to start to shape this down and around and get all of those sharp edges out of there. Everybody see that okay?
You just flatten that top part of it.
Yeah, I just took this top material off here. So next we'll just round things there, and I use this big gouge here to come up and round over the edges to give it that nice round even shape. There's no sharp edges on an animal or on a human. So this is what it looks like when it's been rounded. That's a little bit difficult to see, but there's no sharp edges left. It's all sharp, cleaned out. Take it right down to just above the bell, the bottom of the bell, and a sharp edge in here. I use a V-tool in there, and then it gets up to a transition point here where it goes from a sharp edge to just rounded out to nothing, coming up over top. Okay? Okay, so let's start working on the back here. You see these on the top, these two little bumps that stick out here? Those are the bumps for the udder, which is down here. Okay? So they can come off. It's for the udder down below. Also take notice that the curvature around here, that's for his foot, away down at the bottom. Alright? So that, don't get confused and think that this is for the top part of his hip. It's not. If you look at the diagram, you'll see how the hips stick way up high? But they're somewhat inside his belly. So we're going to leave as much material here as we can, but we're going to leave the hips are going to be more, the top points of the hips are going to be sitting up in here, as opposed to where you might think they are. They're not these ones back here. Are you with me on that? Okay, and then this section in here is going to stay, this section here, because that is where his tail is going to start to come out. That's where the backbone ends and the tail starts. Now I've kept on mine, I've kept the two hips high. I've kept them up high as the top of his tail. But in the diagram, if you take a look at the diagram, you can see that the hips are actually lower than the tail. Alright? So you can have it either way. It's a bit confusing, and when I was working on it, I couldn't really figure it out very well. Because if you take a look at this diagram here, the hips are definitely lower and the tail is higher. Alright? But if you take a look at this diagram here, the tail is lower and the hips are higher. It's reverse. They're two different. That happens quite often when somebody is drawing it. They mess it up. So we're going to work on this area here. So we've got to remove some wood in here. We've got to create the backbone coming down here. Create that hollow. And once we start doing that, then the body will start to work into it. I'll do a little bit of work on that and then start this again. So all I've done is just hollowed out a little bit on both sides underneath the back hip bone there, so that it gives a bit of an undercut shape. And taking a little bit more material out of this section. I did, but you can leave those on if you wish. So there is a closer view of how those hips are starting to take shape. And so the idea is to bring them up to a point. Establish the tail by removing some wood around it. And you can see even in that view there that the tail is going to be way too wide. The cow has quite a narrow tail until at the very end, till you get to the fly swatter at the end. Basically, that's what he uses.